In last class, while discussing about nonmetals, I forgot to tell you one or two more properties of nonmetals. It was necessary actually. And the first one was salt. Even salts are nonmetal. They behave like nonmetal, composite nonmetals. So how that all the salts in their solid form are like insulating material. Like they don't allow current to flow through them in solid form. If you hit solid crystals, solid salt crystals, that will just get broken into many fragments, like they are very loosely connected with each other. And that loose connection, because of there are no particular type of bond exist between salt molecules, so you can easily break them apart by hitting, by hammer or something like other devices. What main nonmetal had the property was the allotropic nature. Metal cannot exist in many forms, but allotropic nature of nonmetal are versatile. Nonmetals can exist in many different forms. They have allotropic nature. Example, carbon. Carbon can exist as a coal, can exist as a diamond, can exist as a graphite, also can exist as a Buckminster fullerene. C60, C90, C20 carbon structures. There are so many different ball-like structures, Buckminster fullerenes. So actually what I'm trying to tell you, that any non-metal can exist in many different forms, and that makes them allotropic, which is not present in metals. But at the same time, non-metal have the one more property that solid hasn't. And that's what? That non-metal exist in all three forms of matter. They can exist as a solid, they can exist as a liquid, they can exist as a gas. Now you tell me, how sir? Then in solid, I told you that composite nonmetals like rubber, like dry wood are there. Composite. In liquid nonmetal, liquid, bromine, one all alone nonmetal which exists in periodic table in liquid form, and the third, gas. So what are the gases? Oxygen, hydrogen, chlorine. What are these? What is sulfur, phosphorus, radon, xenon, helium? What are these? These are the gaseous form of nonmetal. So this case of existing in all three forms, solid, liquid and gas, this property is just occupied by nonmetal but not metal. That makes them different. That makes nonmetals very versatile. That makes them very applicable in many different branches. Look, that are the basic properties of nonmetals which I just left in the last class. What today we have to learn? Today we will differentiate metal and non-metal depending upon their characters. So let's start. So first thing, malleability. We read that malleability is what? That if you hit metal or any substance and it gets flattened by the force, then it's malleable. So the process of getting converted into thin sheets by hammering on it, then that will be malleable. So malleable is what? When you hammer the substance and that substance gets converted into sheets, and that is called malleability, which is present in metals but not in non-metals. If you hit non-metal, they will get broken. They are brittle. They can, but this not. These are brittle. If you hit non-metal, they will set apart. broken apart. Next is ductility. If the substance can convert itself into thin wires, thin long wires, then that will be the properties will be called ductility, and that ductility is actually present in metals, because metals have the property to change itself into thin wires if you do so, because they can melt, they can even overrun by forces. If you apply force, if you pressure them into thin slices or a thin holes, they can change their shape, they can take the new shape, like you have seen in goldsmith's shop, where you can see the runner. So they put a thick piece of silver or a gold, put it in the hole in the roller, and as they move that, that changes into that thick sheet or thick wire changes into thin wire. Even you can hold a pure gold in your hand and stretch it, that will stretch. That is the property of ductility, and that is present in metal but not in non-metal. Look, I'm not talking about composite form of rubber or plastic. That is the nature of elasticity in non-metal that you will read how they behave differently. Third is luster, shine. I told you in last class that luster is what about shine, how a metal can shine or a non-metal can shine. So what is shine actually? How you perceive something that material is very shiny? Is this wood look shiny? No, it's dull. What shiny means that if it controls the normal reflection. We have read about normal reflection. If all the rays reflect by making the same angle, no matter what number of rays hit on this surface. So as the number of reflection, as the normal reflection maximizes, the maximum rays will travel to your eyes, and that substance will appear more shiny. So the shininess of any substance depends upon how much light it can reflect from its surface. And how much light it can reflect or a surface can reflect depends upon how shiny that surface is or how smooth that surface is, and what properties are there of that particular substance, so that can reflect maximum amount of sunlight. Because any sunlight or any beam of light that falls on any substance, two things happen: reflection and refraction. And in the term of refraction, all the molecules or atoms which are present on the surface absorb some amount of sun rays or amount of beam rays, and that when absorbs releases that heat into infrared, and your eyes cannot see in that infrared light because you are not a snake. If you would be a snake, you could easily see that emitting light. So what I'm trying to tell you, that luster, I mean shine, depends upon the property of material, and that property actually mostly occur in metals. That's why metallic elements have the property to reflect back 99% of light, even 99.99% of light back into the air, and that reflection means that material will more shine. Okay, but non-metal don't do that. They actually absorb 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, up to 80%, 90%, up to 99%. They can absorb the sunlight, and as their absorbency increases, that material will look less shiny and dull. Okay, that is the third point. So luster, okay, ductility, okay, but in ductility non-metal, not okay, and in luster, not okay. One exception is diamond or graphite or iodine. These three things shine. Iodine, diamond, and what just the third thing? Yes, graphite. They shine not more, but they shine. But the most luster shown by iodine and diamond. Fourth point, melting point and boiling point. Metals usually have high melting and boiling point. High. It means you have to provide high temperature so that all the metals can convert itself from solid to liquid state, but not in non-metals. Even a small amount of heat can change their state. Like plastic or rubber, if you just put that rubber or a sheet of plastic on a fire, even far from fire, just juxtapose just a side, that plastic will start crumbling and start getting soft. So what just it represented? That even a small amount of it can change the shape of non-metals. Okay. And then what just I said? Yeah, a state of existence. A state of existence. Metals only one state. Metal exists in only one state, like solid. Just one exception is mercury. Mercury exists in liquid state. Okay. Yeah, you can change metal into vapor form, but that needs some extra technique, extra technology. Not naturally they behaves in vapor form. You have to change that many types of metals in vapor form by processing through different levels of temperatures, different levels of procedures that we follow in labs. Second thing is about non-metal. Non-metal can exist in all the form: solid, liquid and gas. Okay. Now allotropes. Metals exist in only one state, that is just just in one form, one form. Like if metal is solid or liquid, that will just persist that structure in a pure form. So you can't find iron in so many different forms, or aluminium in so many different forms. But in non-metal you can see, you will find so many different allotropes, different types of forms of non-metal. Just as I said, carbon can exist in the form of graphite, in the form of diamond, in the form of Buckminster fullerene. So yes, you're okay. Non-metal, you have all these properties. Okay. So these are the characteristics. And yes, conductivity. Metals are highly conductive. Silver, most conductive, and their conductivity depends upon them because of the number of free electrons which are present, plus at the same time these free electrons are allowed to flow from them. So there are no factor other than resistance, their particular resistance, that actually stops those charges to flow, but actually they flow, because that resistance or that resistivity is actually intrinsic property of any material, but that doesn't bar them to allow the electrons to flow. But in non-metals, that resistivity is very high. Very high. You can find that in electricity chapter, there would be a table where you can find resistivity of different types of materials, where you will find what is the resistivity of mica, what is the resistivity of glass, what is the resistivity of dry wood. So you will find there the very high positive value of resistivity for non-metals, and that makes them very insulative material. So that's why electrons cannot flow through non-metal like in metals. Okay, in this class we have studied some points. What we'll do, okay, you continue practicing and read up to this point. In next class we will start reactions. What happens when metal react with oxygen, with acid, with different types of salts, as usually we read in acid base and salt chapter. So just few topics are there. I don't think that would mess with your mind. Okay, gracias.